Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Instagram Live. I'm excited for this one, guys. Many people have referred to him as a Canadian treasure. I think he's even referred to himself as a Canadian treasure before. He's been a huge help to me along the way and an inspiration and a mentor. You know him from a lot of things, like, let's see, This Hour is 22 Minutes. Of course, the Rick Mercer report, which ran, I want to say, like 14 years, I think, something like that. He's got several books out that I know he's possibly working on even more to come. We're going to check in with him. So let's bring him on. I think I just saw him join the stream. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rick Mercer. Hello.
Hello. Is this working?
This is working.
Wow. Wow.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time, sir. Appreciate it.
Time is one thing I have. Like, look, were you going to believe me if I said, I'm sorry, Tanner, I'm very busy. There's so much going on.
People still find ways to make excuses to be like, you know what, I can't, I have to detail the kitchen. Yeah. Well, what has your self-isolation life been looking like? What have you been doing? What have you been busy with? What's going on?
Pretty much what you see me doing now is what I do pretty much throughout the day. I've started a number of projects, but like so many things in my life, I haven't finished them. Like near the beginning of this, I couldn't get fresh lettuce. So I said, I'm going to grow my own lettuce, like during the war. And so I went out and I got pots and dirt, but it's just all sitting in a room now. I don't know anything about being a farmer, but
it happens.
I'm writing allegedly, and I'm writing about my time in Newfoundland, especially when I was a young performer in a comedy troupe. And so that's been kind of fun. Not that the writing's going well, but because I've been calling a lot of old friends and saying, you remember we did that show together? And do you remember this? You remember that? And then we just end up talking for an hour and a half, which is
amazing.
Fun.
Amazing. And I guess we recently just saw you on the Stronger Together special. You kind of bookended that, which was really cool. What was it? What did it feel like for you to see it all come together? Because it's really unprecedented. All these people, all these names in one big piece.
You know, it was very complicated. There's a lot of moving pieces, but why it wasn't as complicated as it could be, everyone was just so accommodating. You know, I know the producers very well, and once the call went out, almost everyone said yes immediately, and then everyone just said yes to whatever they were offered. You know, we need a minute 30, we made a minute 50. No one was jockeying for position or for extra time. Everyone just did exactly what they were asked, and therefore the producers had a lot of flexibility to put it together, and it was a tremendous show. I didn't know what it would look like, but I thought it was great, and I was honored to be a part of it. Absolutely.
Well, I think you have to be a part of it. A friend of mine, Stacy, reached out to me earlier and said that you need to please tell Rick that he is the best thing to ever happen to Canada.
That's out of everything, more than the Rockies,
more than healthcare, the Rockies, anything.
Cirque, I know.
But I think it speaks for, itself. There's so many people I'm seeing in the comments right now. I'm a huge Rick Mercer fan. He's a Canadian legend. Much love, Ricky. There's so many people watching right now. It's kind of cool, I think you've done it already, but kind of looking back and seeing your career and all the people you've inspired along the way, all the adventures you've had, all the lives you've touched. I think you've earned the title. You are, I think, a Canadian treasure.
Stop.
Come on. No, a little bit.
Well, it is what I put on my travel documents. I mean, of course. That's very kind of you. You know what? If you're in show business, you're just happy to be working. And that never went away for me. I was just always grateful to be working. And as Dad said, you're working and you're indoors. So 2 for 2. I was just always really grateful to be able to work in show business, to build a career in show business. And so I never took any of that for granted. I was very lucky.
Did you ever have a plan B? What was the plan B if it didn't go down this way for you?
I didn't have a plan B. I always said real estate agent.
Hey, I think I would buy a house from you.
Sure, that's what I always said.
I would pay way over asking price.
I was always interested in politics and comedy and real estate. So I figured real estate, but actually I had no plan B. And I think that's a terrible thing to do It's just that I didn't have a plan B because I was a terrible student. I was just an incredibly undisciplined young person. And that was evident all throughout my school career. And the minute I got out of school and I started producing comedy shows and writing and performing, I actually became an incredibly disciplined person. But I should have figured that out much earlier. And then I might have had a plan B. But there was no plan B.
Well, that's good. Well, we have some questions coming in already. I saw a comment. It's an important one from Cosburn here. Hey, Rick, have you been keeping in touch with Jan through this? That's the important one. Have you and Jan been keeping in touch?
Yes. Well, I follow Jan on Instagram, of course, but how many times can you see a picture of that road? You know, Jan on a road. Okay, Jan. I do call Jan, and she calls me, and we have chats. And I've told people this before, but one of the things that I really do with Jan, I think, and this is good advice for everyone, during these crazy times, when you get on the phone with someone, instead of just saying, wow, isn't this insane? Isn't this just like, what's going on in the world, and swapping pandemic tales, interview each other. So I actually sat down and I thought, what? You know, I always wanted to know how, you know, Jan's second album came about. And I asked her those questions. And so we suddenly spend time talking about something like that versus the pandemic and her road.
Well, you were, correct me if I'm wrong, were you not the Canadian Screen Award nomination? You were for guest star on the episode that you were on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at that.
It wasn't much of a stretch. I was playing me and she was screaming at me. I mean,
well, hey.
An actor prepares.
It would have been terrible if you played yourself and not done a good job. That would say a lot about you, I think.
Completely unbelievable.
You're like, this guy is so far
totally
off the mark.
miscast.
I have another question here that come in. By the way, if you have a question for Rick, you can submit it via the question box at the bottom. But this is a great one. What are you reading during this time? Anything you're reading?
What am I reading during this time? I have been reading a bunch of memoirs. I just read a book. Oh, what is it? So-and-so Oliphant is Perfectly Fine. I'm getting the title wrong. Look up Oliphant. It's a fantastic book. So I haven't been reading a lot because I'm allegedly writing.
Allegedly. Okay.
Allegedly.
Well, let's hope that's allegedly true.
Yes. Let's hope.
We could allegedly pick up a new book, yes. Allegedly. Now, there was a question I saw in the comments here from JM. Rick, is there another rant in your future? I mean, when people think about the legacy of Rick Mercer, Graffiti Alley, come on, are we going to see any more?
Well, I'm not going to Graffiti Alley. I did a rant at the beginning of the pandemic, and I shot it in my house, and we had never, ever allowed any cameras in the house. And suddenly I was doing a rant in the house, and my partner was the cameraman, and that was terrible because I'm used to working with the greatest cameraman in the world, and suddenly I got my partner doing it, but we got through it. And will there be a rant in the future? Probably within 20 minutes. I mean, I'm constantly ranting. I just don't do it on camera anymore.
Yeah. Well, if you leave your doors unlocked, maybe people could come in and tag your hallway.
And stand from a safe distance. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it'd be. Just
I'm not going down to that alley for a while. That alley's crowded enough. I'm not going down there.
It's true. You did it before it was cool, though. I think. Here we go. Let's. Oh man. What would be, let's go with this one. Who would be your top pick to interview if you had the opportunity? Anybody on your bucket list, Rick, that you would love to sit down with?
I've been asked this before because we had such tremendous access on the show that if there was anyone I wanted to talk to, we pretty much pulled it off. But I never had Neil Young on the show, and I always wanted to talk to Neil Young. Although I would probably be incredibly intimidated because I think he's notoriously kind of odd interview. He's not like, effervescent and bubbly. So, but yeah. I would have loved to have met him and interviewed him.
Yeah, that would be a great.
That would be cool.
This is a great question. Cool. This is a great question too that I feel like you're the best person for. What is a story that is important to you, Rick, that has been lost in the pandemic coverage? Because I feel like we are seeing a lot of maybe one thing right now. Anything that kind of got buried in there?
There's so much because there is only one story right now, and it's sucking all of the oxygen out of all of the media. So it's a tough one to answer, but it's certainly proper that we acknowledge that all the oxygen is being sucked out of the room, and we can't continue on like that. It's also with government. I mean, government is responsible for so many things, and right now they're focused on one ball only. but there's a lot of balls they normally have in the air. So I'm very worried that when this is all over, we're going to look all over the place and go, wow, we really took our eye off that. We really took our eye off that. But you know, who knows? These are unprecedented times. If I was in charge of government, I guess I'd be doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. This is another great question too. Just as of a hard hitting question here. Why is it that all the coolest Canadians are from Newfoundland?
So true. So true. No, I think we're louder than everyone else. And we just kind of punched above our weight a little bit and got more positions in media than maybe other pockets of the population have, because there's really cool people from all over the country. Obviously, that's why I love doing my show so much, and that's what I loved about the show, was showing cool Canadians from one part of the country, introducing them to the other part of the country. So while I'm flattered by the premise of the question, I would also have to disagree.
Now,
I went to school with a few people that, not that cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we all got those people.
Yeah.
Now, this is something you referenced during the Stronger Together special, because I think a lot of people did tune in to really look inside people's homes, and this is a question here. I always love to see the art in people's houses. What is the picture behind you? They can only see the bottom half.
Okay, that guy is my grandfather. And
oh, wow.
I never met him, but there he is, lurking over my shoulder, judging me as I write.
Oh.
This is a picture. It's too shiny for you to see, but it's a crowd mobbing a police officer at a Platinum Blonde concert in Newfoundland in 1985.
Wow, Platinum Blonde, you said?
They were a band.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware. I worked in a classic hits radio station at one point, so yeah. I mean, at that time they weren't classic hits, but
it is a lot of fun being able to look into people's houses. And that's why I mentioned it in the special, because my room is in slings. It's just totally in slings, except this one little area back here where there's nothing piled. Look, there's a screwdriver here. Why is there a screwdriver? The water bottle, but back there, it's perfectly, the place is in slings.
Yeah, you put all the junk behind the camera.
Camera ready behind me.
All the junk just gets piled up, and then, yeah, exactly.
Yes, forward.
Here we go. Before I move on to something else here, let's take one more fan question here. Which episode of the Rick Mercer Report was your favorite? I mean, you've done so much. Can you really even decide?
I always go back to Rick Hansen, because Rick Hansen was a big hero of mine, and sometimes you don't want to meet heroes because they can be very disappointing, and he wasn't. He was tremendous. And also we went bungee jumping in this beautiful setting in British Columbia, so it had the three elements that I always thought made for great television. You have someone who's interesting and has a great story to tell, and you're in a part of the country that's beautiful, and there's action. And I mean, pushing a guy in a wheelchair off a bridge, that's a lot of action. And so to me, it was like almost 5-star segment.
I don't know if anyone else can say that. I think you're maybe the only person in the world who has done that. So
I'm the only person who pushed him off, and he's afraid of heights, so he's never doing it again. I mean, that's not happening.
Do you revisit it often? Like, do you go back and watch episodes and kind of relive it, or do you not kind of touch it?
No. Occasionally I do, and occasionally it's been under unfortunate circumstances. When Neil Peart passed away, I went back and watched that, and I posted that. I don't often do that, but that was, being able to talk to Neil Peart on the show was such an honor, because he did very little media in the last decade and a half of his life, and he just did our show, and it showed a real funny side of his personality, great sense of humor, and I got to play drums with him. I mean,
wow,
what a thrill! And so sometimes I go back, but not a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't sit around and watch yourself in rerun.
That's true.
But I hear from people, especially now, because teachers have always used the show in school, and now with the home learning, they seem to be using it way more. So I'm hearing from way more people who are kids who are watching at home because they're being forced to for school. Yeah,
there's people reminiscing in the comments. I see JD Groot, I can't feel my legs. Rick Hansen. That was
that's what he said.
And then also Cosburn said skinny dipping with Bob Ray. That was another great moment.
That was tremendous. And that was one of those things we certainly didn't set out to do. And Bob traveled alone. I mean, he was running for the leadership of the Liberal Party at the time, and he had no handlers with him. And let that be a lesson, because it's the handler's job to say, no, you're not getting naked and jumping in a lake and showing your bare ass on television. But he did it. He was a champ.
You've got a way of convincing people to do things. Like,
that's it. I said, Bob, if you take off your clothes with me and you jump in this lake, you will win the leadership of the Liberal Party and be the next Prime Minister of Canada. And by the time Canada came out of my mouth, the buckle had hit the rock. Into the drink he went.
wow.
Turned out completely wrong.
Wow. I mean, it worked out for all of us. We all got some quality entertainment from it. So
you know why we did it? Because we didn't catch any fish. We went in the middle of nowhere. We flew in a float plane, in a beaver, into northern Ontario, into places you could not get unless you had a plane. You would have to be an idiot not to catch a fish in there. And we were fishing and fishing, and we couldn't get a bite. And I was like, this is a disaster, because no matter what we talk about, content-wise, everyone's going to say, those guys are so stupid, they couldn't even catch a fish. And so we had to change the channel, which we did, by objectifying our bodies.
Hey.
What we did.
Quality entertainment. Quality Canadian homegrown entertainment right there. Well, before we wrap up, I've been doing this with a lot of people. Since we're all in everyone's homes and we're all being really invasive and we're all surrounded by all of our stuff, I've been playing a little game of at-home self-isolation show and tell. Do you have an item that you could present to the class and maybe tell the story that goes with it?
I just got a couple here because you told me that this is going to happen, and I thought I don't have items, but I do have, because I talked to so many iconic Canadians over the years. Sometimes I would come home with a souvenir. So I've got a hockey stick here signed by Don Cherry, right? And that's good for social distancing. I just take this out in the street and start swinging. And I've got a boxing glove signed by George Chuvalo, who went 12 rounds with Muhammad Ali.
Damn.
I love him. A tremendous, tremendous individual. But this is one of my favorite things I have. When you know this, when you go and you do gigs or you do benefits or whatever, sometimes they give you things to bring home, or sometimes, in my case, there's often a charitable auction and I get carried away and bring something home. And my partner, every time I would walk in after doing the gig, he would say, like, stop bringing crap into this house. Once he'd just see the bag, he wouldn't even know what was in it. And one day I walked in, I had a gig out west, and I came in, I had a guitar case. I don't play the guitar. He doesn't play the guitar. He's like, a guitar? Really? And I said, oh, no, look at this. Look at this. And so this is it's a beautiful Yamaha guitar, but it's signed by every member of the Tragically Hip.
Whoa.
So that is probably, one of my, whatever you call it, prized possessions. Yes. And I was very happy to have that.
Wow.
So that's pretty good.
Where do you keep an item like that? Like, do you display it? You have on the wall above the fireplace? Or what do you do?
No, I don't own a sports bar. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. With my jerseys. Yeah. My hip jerseys too. I got those on the wall. No, it's
all your beer.
It's actually, it is in a case, and it's properly stored, and it will eventually be donated for some charitable cause, because I do feel guilty about the fact that I don't play guitar and I have this thing. And I actually said to Gord, obviously before he passed away, I told him I had this guitar, and I didn't know the etiquette. And I said, I know you guys signed it and you donated to this charity. And see, what happened was I was at this thing and the audience was old. And all the items were going for really good prices, except this guitar, because they didn't know who these tragically hip young men were. So this is why I ended up with the guitar. But I said to Gord, I had this guitar. He said, oh yeah, I remember doing that. And I said, would it be wrong if I turned around and donated it to another charity, seeing as it's a guitar that you signed? And he said, he looked at me like it was the stupidest question he'd ever heard. He was like, no, of course that would be fine. What do you even mean? I was like, I don't know. I didn't know the etiquette of that. So someday that's what I'll do.
Amazing. Well, Rick Mercer, you're always a class act. I think I think it's safe to say a Canadian treasure. I think you've earned the title. So let's
very
go with that. And thank you for, you know,
How about
personally.
solid citizen? That's
Okay.
all I want, Tanner.
Okay, solid, a solid
Yeah.
citizen. And
Yeah.
and on a personal note, over the years, you've been a tremendous, inspiration and mentor to me. So I just want to say thank you so much for all that you've done to me and for our beautiful country of Canada. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's it, I guess. So enjoy the rest of your self-isolation.
Okay.
Go wash your hands and
I will.
don't touch your face, I guess, right?
Oh, I hate that. Constantly touching.
All right, Rick.
Okay.
Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.